This week's episode is brought to you by Blue Harvest Vintage. Are you a collector? Blue Harvest love to help you find that missing piece you need to complete your collection. They have extensive stock of vintage Star Wars vehicles and mint-on-card action figures, as well as new The Force Awakens and Black Series items. Blue Harvest have Funko Pops, Lego, Dinky, Corgi, Matchbox and more. Everything a collector could possibly need. If they don't stock it, then let them know, and their knowledgeable staff will be only too pleased to help. Reach out to Blue Harvest on Twitter at Blue Harvest UK, Facebook, Blue Harvest Vintage Collectibles, or email at blueharvesttoys@gmail.com.
This is Talk Star Wars, the official podcast of talkstarwars.co.uk. Hello everyone, welcome back to Talk Star Wars. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And we have no Paul or Steve this evening. Paul will hopefully be joining us shortly, but Stephen is unwell, bless his little cotton socks. How are you, Rob?
I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good to be back. Ready to chit-chat about Star Wars.
We back, baby.
We back. Before we get started, as it says rather efficiently on the show notes, we launched a new page on talkstarwars.co.uk today.
Did indeed.
Or this week when you're listening to this. And that is to accompany our new podcast, the TSW Toy Box, which this fine gentleman created with two of our friends. So head to talkstarwars.co.uk/toybox to find the new show. Blue Harvest's articles dedicated to the Kenner toy range, and Jeremy's collector videos, which are dedicated to restoration of classic Star Wars figures. That's all at talkstarwars.co.uk/toybox. Rob, this has been very well received, considering it's just episode 0 on day 1.
Well, I am humbled by the response to this. It's very, very wonderfully lovely. It's quite overwhelming in a way, you know.
People have been very kind.
It's marvelous. Yeah, absolutely, and
with good reason as well. It's exceptional.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did quite. I mean, as we talked about before the recording of the main show, I did have quite a lot of work to do to make it sound as good as possible, just because the software I was using isn't fantastically kind. But
it's a tricky. Sounds like a bit of a tricky one, this one, but we'll work it out between us. We'll get to a solution, and the sound quality will improve.
Hopefully.
But content-wise, I think you guys nailed it, and I like the brevity of the show. Made it for a first episode really nice and punchy.
You say first episode, don't get too attached to the idea of it being longer every time, because I think actually half an hour might be the sweet spot for that.
Yeah, it works really well.
We're talking about it behind the scenes, and it may be that half an hour might be the sort of the golden time, but we'll see how we get on. Yeah,
I think it fits well in that sort of Thursday spot, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Really awesome. Yeah, so well done, mate. Congratulations.
Yeah, maybe Thursday is half an hour kind of
half an hour show day, apart from the round table.
Oh, the round table is a special thing in so many ways anyway. So
Indeed.
It doesn't necessarily follow those same rules.
So congratulations to you and to Jeremy
indeed.
and Mark for a job well done. And we'll look forward to the next one.
Oh, hopefully I will have that organised soon.
We watch the space. Okay, let's get into the announcement section. So a bunch of people showed interest in some of the stuff we do around here this week, or the past couple of weeks, because we've been away. So the Bill subscribe to us on YouTube, and George Arthur Dawson, Daniel Padian, Hank Hodges, Ian Jolliffe, Colin Bambi Hexley, and our very own Ash from Skyhoppers Podcast all like to have a Facebook page.
Oh, nice.
As did a friend of mine named Andy Smith. I don't know why I didn't put him on the show notes, but I need to shout that guy out. He was a former movie geek, writer on Movie Geek, and a podcast host on Movie Geek's Film News. So thank you everyone for liking the Facebook page. Many thanks also to Paul Corey and to Tim from the Nerd Room for becoming TSW sponsors in the past week or so. And by extension, they become TSW VIP. So thank you guys. And thanks to Nathan Kenobi Roberts for naming the TSWHQ recording space. So I reached out and said, when I finally got myself settled in this area, I said to the VIPs in the monthly newsletter, I need a name, and
Yeah.
I'd like to find a way to for us to name it. And the newsletter landed, and I think Matt Keegan was straight on it, and did I put a copy of what his suggestion was in here? No, I meant to, but clearly I didn't.
No.
Yeah, so Matt was on it, and then Nathan just came through and said,
nailed it.
Yeah, is it not obvious that we should name the space S2DO? And that is in the format of a droid designation, so S-2DO, which is simply genius.
It's superb. It really is good.
It's perfect. It's extremely intelligent, and I love it. So that is now the official name for this place. It is S2DO. So thanks for that, Nathan.
Nicely
really made
done.
my day.
Very, very well done.
Okay. Reviews. We've got an interesting review this week because it didn't go into iTunes. It was sent
I was going to say.
directly to me. But that's fine. I mean, it's all love. The same.
All good. Yeah, all good. Yeah.
But don't forget, if you want to take advantage of our Ron Burgundy policy, which means whatever you write a 5-star review, I will read verbatim. Just leave us a 5-star review in iTunes, and I will take care of that for you. So if you want to promote your podcast or your blog, that's where to do it. There's only one rule: keep that stuff clean. So this 5-star review came via email from our friend Kevin Sibery, who you might remember.
Name is familiar to me.
Yeah, you and Paul were having a discussion because Paul thought we should name him Kevin Kybery after the crystals.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
On a previous episode. So Kevin writes thusly. See, I will use it if I want to. The guys all have a wealth of Star Wars knowledge, and they each bring something unique to the podcast. Together, their chemistry is off the charts, and each show brings a fun and enjoyable content to the listeners. They dive headfirst into all kinds of theories. If they see a grain of sand on Jakku that doesn't look quite right, they'll have a 30-minute discussion and cross-reference that grain of sand with at least 3 other Star Wars movies.
Generous.
I very much look forward to each show. Yeah, 30 minutes. We never kept it that short.
Yeah, right.
Their dedication to each show is admirable. Keep up the great work. And then this is where he's very geniusly taken advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. So he sent a message to his son. Okay. To my son, Connor, always stay to the light side and just remember I am your father. So stop being so vicious with that lightsaber. I can't wait to see episode 8 with you. 1 showing in the morning and 1 at night. Let's do it. Nice. He also sent through some images of his family. They go to Disney parks, and they were decked out in clear signs of fandom.
Yeah,
photos with Darth Vader, but I didn't know if he'd intended that to be included, so I'd left that off of the review. But it was pretty much what their family does. So hopefully, Kevin, if you and your family are at Celebration, I'm going to be there. It'll be nice to meet up and put a face to the name, sir. But thank you very much for the 5-star review. Very kind. Very kind words indeed. Yes. Okay, listener comms. We've got quite a lot this week, and I think we've got some voicemails. I just need to check that they are loaded. They are loaded. We've got a couple of voicemails that are loaded into the software. Right, here we go then. Listener comms. So you can send your questions and comments via Twitter, Facebook, or send us an email at talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. And then you can send us voicemail quickly and easily and get your voice into the show. So, do you want to take this first one from Kyle, Rob?
Yes, indeed. So this is from Kyle at the Tumbling Saber, right?
It is, our man.
Our man. Hi, Mark and the TSW crew. I hope everyone's doing well, and I'm sure you're in the midst of another fantastic episode. James, Corey, and I discussed this a couple of weeks back on episode 61 or 62, but as always, I'm curious to know what you guys think. There are at least 4 really heavy events in the pre-TFA galaxy that have been alluded to but not yet explored. Ben's turn to the dark side, the destruction of Luke's academy, Han and Leia's split, and Luke's departure for Arc 2 and the First Jedi Temple. We know that these events are intimately connected, and I can't imagine that we'll never see them explored in canon. These events are too emotionally loaded for Lucasfilm to never cash in on. My question to you is, are all of these points tackled in one big story or spread over the course of years? And if so, what format would you like to see it explored in? Can't wait to hear your takes on this one. Long live the Star Wars Commonwealth. Kyle.
Good question.
Interesting indeed.
Okay. Well, I think there's possibly only maybe two.
Okay.
No. There's one thing there that we won't see on screen, and that's Han and Leia's split.
Okay.
But Ben's turn to the dark side, the fall of Luke's academy, and Luke's departure for Arc 2 might all take place in some sort of force vision or flashback.
Okay.
On screen in the movies.
Yeah, I can sort of see that. Yeah, I can see some of that happening. Maybe the numbers 2 and 4, maybe 1.
Yeah,
I guess it depends. I mean, so we can talk Bloodline, right?
Yeah,
Bloodline's been out for long enough now.
Oh yes.
So all we know for sure from Bloodline, if I'm remembering it correctly, because it's been a while since I read it, is that Luke and Ben are kind of incommunicado with Leia for some time, because originally they went off in search of either other Jedi or Jedi temples or whatever. So we don't necessarily know that Ben's turn hadn't already happened by that point. Well, that seems less likely, I guess.
Yeah, it would diminish Luke if he couldn't see that happen right under his nose.
Yeah, that's it. So I suppose that would be, like I say, it's unlikely, I would think, but at the same time, it's not completely outside the realm of possibility, I guess, is the best way of putting it. I would be inclined to agree with you. I think it's probably most likely going to be the case already. I don't think it's going to be a surprise. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, turns out actually I didn't even see it coming that far back. It's like, well, okay. Put in a little bit of, it would sort of weaken Luke's position before he's even had a chance to sort of be reintroduced contextually. So maybe they would steer clear of that, which is probably for the best. But 2 and 4 I think could easily be handled in the film, in, like you say, in the form of a flashback or some sort of exposition. What would be cool, actually? Here's one for you. If they, when we're speculating that there might be a period where Luke and Ben are sort of arguing in front of Rey.
Yeah.
They're connected. And they're in a room together and they're sort of disputing in front of Rey. How cool would it be to see Luke's take on that period and then see Ben's take on it in a different, a kind of, I remember it differently and this is what you didn't know then, this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, a bit of out.
Not in like a buddy cop kind of way,
No.
Just in a more, I don't know, just in a more kind of
visual way.
Yeah, in a more visual, and it would be a bit of a back and forth.
They've never done anything like that. They haven't done anything like that yet in
like
Star
dueling,
Wars.
Almost like dueling. What's it called? Dueling memories.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, it would be interesting. But I think they've established the language of the new trilogy storytelling to have very visual representations in the form of these visions, and that might be the best way for Rey to see it. And they could kind of do what you're suggesting if there's a connection between her and Kylo. Maybe she sees visions from Kylo, communications from Kylo when she's meditating, or perhaps when she's asleep. A bit like the dreams that Anakin had in Episode 2.
Yeah.
If Kylo could sort of tell her stories remotely about Luke in a way to try and undermine Luke,
get in her head and sort of sour her to him. I like that.
Yeah. And then when Luke's telling her the truth, she's conflicted because she's seeing Kylo's visions, but that all gets a little bit, I know you voiced concerns previously about not getting too Harry Potter, and that is a little bit Harry Potter, a little bit Voldemort.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit almost like the pensive, that bit in the movie where they're sort of, exploring memories and stuff.
But it would be good.
It all seems a bit.
Think of the shot structure in Episode 2 when Anakin's dreaming about, or Episode 3 actually, we see a visual representation of his dreaming.
Yeah, that kind of cloudy.
The cloudy
sort
Padme screaming. And it's actually, his visions are actually frighteningly accurate. If
indeed.
Rey had visions like that, and we saw Ben and Luke arguing, she would possibly accept that to be accurate, when maybe she's only being shown one thing, or one possible perspective on that, on those events by Kylo. That would be kind of interesting.
That would be cool. Yeah, I would be on board for that.
So you could pack Ben's turn at the dark side, the destruction of Luke's academy, and Luke's departure for Arc 2, all in those visions. But Han and Leia split, I think, would have to be left to another book, probably best left to Claudia Gray.
Or a comic, maybe?
Maybe. It's not...
Yeah.
It's very difficult to see sort of a splash page of...
Yeah, exactly.
Them having a Barney, but...
yeah.
I would like to see Claudia Gray handle that in a book.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that these events, apart from that, the Han and Leia split, the events are pretty much tied together, and they could be put to service one particular story within a movie.
Yeah.
But the Han and Leia thing, to me, that would be better served aside, because the pacing would be a little bit off, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I say, it would just be, it wouldn't quite fit.
And you'd need Harrison.
Yes, you would.
Unless he did come back for a cameo, but I doubt that.
I don't see that. Yeah, I think you're probably right there.
Okay.
Yes.
Very cool.
Good. Interesting thought.
Yeah, good way to get the show started. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, too right. Thank you, mate.
Okay, so we've got a voicemail from Matt.
Okay.
Ladies, what's up? Matt here, just after your thoughts on the new Battlefront coming out this year. What would you like to see in it? Who do you want to see in it? What could they do that would blow everybody away, amaze us all? The first Battlefront was all right. My boys and I love to play it. We still get a bit of mileage out of it, but very keen for the next one. What are your thoughts? Cheers, bye.
Are you a big Battlefront gamer?
I'm a fan. I don't get as much time to play it as I'd like to yet, just because there aren't enough hours in the day, frankly.
Yeah.
Just because life gets in the way. But I do enjoy it when I play. As long as I can play as Director Krennic in the second one as well, I'm happy.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Oh, you can play him in the first one, in the Rogue One DLC.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not a DLC kind of naysayer by any means. I really like that they've built out the game. I know there were criticisms when it first came out that there wasn't quite enough stuff in it, but they did release, if I remember rightly, they did release some stuff, additional stuff for free. They haven't been completely blameless in terms of causing their own PR headaches, but at the same time, they have made inroads to kind of make some of that better.
Yeah.
But the DLC packs they have delivered, I think, are top notch. They've got the Bespin one with you can play as Lando and Dengar. You've got I think it's just they've done, they, like I say, they haven't done the best job with sort of the delivery of the game in terms of, maybe it could be just as bad as managing expectations, really.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see that from a kind of meta perspective. I'd like to see them manage expectations a bit better. Admittedly, you're never going to please everybody because it's the internet. And that's why I'm so grateful for the wonderful fans and stuff we have, because we can, all we have to do is be ourselves and we can please people, and that's nice. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what it could include, I'd like to see, this is a bold thing for a multiplayer game, but I'd like to see it so you don't get the better weapons, the better you get at the game, because then the gulf between the crap players and the really good players is even bigger. And I'm not a fan because I'm one of the crap ones. So I would like to see them balance that a bit better. That would be nice.
Well, I haven't even started playing the game yet, really. It's
have you not?
No, I'm very far behind.
We should do a TSW, because I have the Xbox, because I'm an idiot. I've got a copy on both consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my head I went, I'll play with I've got friends on both who play it, and then I don't get a chance to play one of them, let alone two. So
yeah, That's the
you know,
situation I'm in. I really get
Yeah,
the time to sort of do it.
it's not ideal, but at the same time, you know, I did it because I thought that would be the case. I got it wrong. We move on. Blah blah blah. But what would be cool is my PS4 copy. I haven't actually played any of it yet, so I'm still at level 0.
Right.
So we could do maybe that's a video series, Mark. Me and you going from rags to riches in Star Wars Battlefront,
Or
as a pairing.
rags to rags would probably be
Right.
that would be my arc.
Rags to
development.
Rathars.
Rags to Rathars. Yeah.
Yeah, there's your title for you as well. You can have that.
I would love to see a more dedicated campaign mode that I could sort of pick up.
Oh,
and
that's
jump
already
into.
confirmed. Yeah, that's
For
confirmed.
2.
There will be
Good.
one.
Good.
I don't know about 2. There will be one. I know that for sure.
Right.
But I don't know in terms of what it will entail and stuff like that. But EA seem to be asking their devs to build in campaign modes again on multiplayer games, because Battlefield 1's got one, Titanfall 2 launched with one, and by all accounts it's really good as well. So I reckon Battlefront 2 will probably have a pretty decent showing in that respect. But we shall see,
I would love to be able to just do that. So when I do get the time, usually if I've got a podcast either burning or uploading or a video burning, it would be nice to just pick up the controller and get into that and put it back.
There is that.
Minutes,
that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, it's one of those
things. You
things
can't always
where
rally a group of people together and say, "I've got 15 minutes."
Yeah,
just get on and play for 15 minutes.
There you go. There's a one I'd like to see. I would like to see them fix their god awful matchmaking speeds.
Right.
Because they are just atrocious. Really, really bad. I don't know why it's so bad, but it is. So I'd like to see them fix that.
We'll get on that, people.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be nice, just get on that and everybody's happier.
Awesome.
Like I say, it's the internet, so that's still not going to solve everybody's problem. But I think it would certainly, 9 times out of 10, if I get annoyed with a game to the point where I stop, it's because I've just given up. Something about it is fiddly and annoying, and I've given up. I've run out of patience with it. And stuff like that. Loading times, especially on multiplayer, is a really big. It can be a really big draw in terms of switching me right off. So I'd like to see that.
I think Paul, I'll answer in his absence. He's looking forward to an update to his Mario Cement Factory Nintendo Game Watch. And Steve actually would probably have something to say, because I know he plays.
He does play, yeah.
Yeah, so he would have something to say. Unfortunately, we'll have to stick a pin in that maybe until next week.
Maybe you can get his thoughts on them after Dark Side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll make a note of that in the margins and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, right. Let's move on to... Thanks for that, Matt. Let's move on to...
Yes, thank you, mate.
Dan Solo. So Dan writes, Dear Mark and the rest of the gang at Talk Star Wars, I'm Dan Solo at Star Wars Sucker, and my question is about Kylo Ren's future. My thought of the day is around the mechanism that may bring him back to the light and request the audience to accept his redemption. Han Solo tells Kylo that Snoke is using him for his power. Could it be that Snoke is draining Kylo's Force capabilities, and this is why we see him weakening throughout The Force Awakens? The theory could go on to speculate that in The Last Jedi, Snoke will complete Kylo Ren's training by completely diminishing his Force capabilities. Luke and Rey will rescue him by the end of the movie, and by this time he will be a different character. He will be Ben Solo and a replacement for Han. I voted for Kylo Ren in your recent poll, and I think it's the possibility of his redemption that led me to this difficult decision. I might have gone a bit far with this one. I'm a bit interested to know what you think of this kind of story. Please don't include it in the show if you think it's rubbish. Dan, nothing you ever write in is rubbish, sir. Have a great show, Dan. So, could Snoke be draining Kylo Ren of his Force abilities?
I mean, maybe. It seems like we'd have seen signs of that in dialogue, maybe, or just to have the kind of. I suppose you could possibly draw that conclusion from his conversation with Vader's helmet, but I think that would be a tenuous reach. but I can certainly see how that could be interpreted that way. But you'd really have to go some.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of I feel the pull of the light when actually it's the weakening of his dark powers. That he's feeling it more, you know, because kind of the light is more of a proportion of what remains.
Yeah.
But
well, I've interpreted that as Kylo's desperately trying to be the bad guy, and I don't think that he naturally is the bad guy.
Okay.
And I think that I feel it again. The pull of the light is him sort of coming up for air. He's coming up out of the darkness, very very briefly. And that's why remember he's talking to Darth Vader when he's having that conversation. He's not talking to Anakin. Yeah. Anakin has been vilified by Snoke to Kylo, so he's very much sort of saying Anakin's weak. Anakin's compassion was his undoing.
Yeah.
If Vader had stuck to the path I've set you on, as in Snoke saying to Kylo, if he'd stuck to the path you're now on, he would have had absolute power. So, in a way, I think what Dan is suggesting is a really good point. I think that Snoke is diminishing Kylo's ability within the Force, but I think he's very deliberately sort of destroying the light side of Ben Solo and making something that is completely dark. I actually put out a piece this week on the site. Did you see it? A new Snoke theory?
I did, yeah. It's actually, it doesn't suck, which, you know, is nice.
So someone will have to make new stickers.
I owe Steel Saunder 30p, don't I, somehow?
Yeah. So without going into that theory too far, I'm beginning to see Snoke as like this dark entity that occupies bodies, and that's why we see the Snoke that the entity is in possession of in The Force Awakens is this cadaverous old thing. But he needs a dark side body to be able to move on. Yeah. And I even started to think that perhaps that might have been Palpatine's, like Plagueis's design for cheating death, Palpatine's wish to cheat death, and that's why he had an interest in Anakin. Maybe that's why they created Anakin. So that they had somebody to corrupt, make completely dark, and then there's another body to inhabit when the one you're in is beyond use. But of course, what happens to Anakin in Revenge of the Sith makes that body very unpalatable for Palpatine. Yeah. And that's why he gets so excited when he finds Luke. If he can break Luke, pull him to the dark side, he's got a new vessel. Yeah. I don't know if that means Palpatine would have mastered that ability. Yeah. And to my mind, I said we weren't going to go too deep into this theory, but
that's all right. People know what we do, Mark. This is
we have absolutely no discipline. No. To my mind, it's the dark side version of a Force ghost, whereas the Jedi will be able to sacrifice their physical form and become one with the Force and continue to contribute to the Force by sacrificing themselves physically. That's a very selfless thing. But this idea of Snoke being a dark entity, being like a dark side Force ghost, moving from body to body, it keeps a corporeal form. It keeps the physical pleasures that it cherishes so much, and that's the Sith don't want to die. They want to stay alive forever. Yeah. They are the exact antithesis of Jedi.
It's interesting you say that.
To me.
Yeah, absolutely, because I've been listening to the audiobook. I've been sort of really bad on reading this year so far, but I was listening to one of the reasons is because the audiobook is quite long for Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. And actually in that book, you actually have a proper dialogue between Obi-Wan and Yoda, with Qui-Gon kind of chipping into Yoda. Right. And he establishes that the reason that the Sith can't, become one with the Force is because they just can't put themselves second to the will of the Force. So it's interesting you say that, because I think that's actually something that's
canon.
It's absolutely. I think it's absolutely there. We've talked about it for however long, but I think it is absolutely there to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this kind of works, and to me, this within new canon now, there's the whole thing of that Leia could feel some sort of entity showing interest in the baby when she was pregnant with Ben Solo. And that might be the first sign that the Snoke entity knew that there was another dark side user there, or a potential dark side user there. All he had to do was seduce him, groom him, and kill off any propensity he had for becoming a light side, becoming a Jedi, so that he could create a dark side user and inhabit the body when he needs to. And with the midichlorians, it could be explained away scientifically.
Sure.
But I still prefer the sort of spiritual side of it.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
So in a way, what the question Dan's asked here, it kind of it is that, I think he is. I think Snoke is trying to diminish Kylo's force capabilities, but only the light side force capabilities. I think he wants to create a complete dark side force user out of him for his own reasons. So what about the second part of his question? Will Luke and Rey need to save Kylo Ren and return Ben Solo to the light side? That would make this trilogy a rescue mission, wouldn't it?
It would, but it's quite bold because they're still, it alludes to Jedi in the sense that there's a redemption by Luke from somebody from the dark side, but it's not as straightforward and clear cut as one is saving the other. A little bit more nuanced.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I really like it. I like the idea that this will be a rescue mission.
I'd kind of go with that.
I like the idea that Luke, if there is anything to my theory, that Luke appreciates exactly what's at stake. And he's already walked very close to the dark side himself, so he can't afford to plummet into the dark side abyss now and have Snoke consume him, because then the Jedi disappear. And then who's going to stop Snoke?
Absolutely.
And now there's safety in numbers because Rey's around as well. So it could be that Rey needs to. It could be that Rey needs to train so that she can defend herself against Snoke and his agenda, and then Luke needs to face off against him with Rey safely at a distance so that she doesn't get destroyed. So that he's always got, the Jedi always want that one in reserve, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay, Dan, that's a great question.
Absolutely.
And it just conveniently tied into that thing I spent so much time writing this week, which is always nice.
And it's convenient that you get to choose the questions as well. It's really weird that how that works out.
Isn't it just? It's almost the will of the Force.
All right. Quite so.
We've got a second voicemail this week, and this is from Skoldron at Roku Depot.
Ah, I know that name.
Hi, this is Steven with Roku Depot, and I had a question for this week's show. In Rogue One, we saw Vader's castle in Mustafar. What do you think happened to it after Vader's death in Return of the Jedi? Was it maybe ransacked by somebody? Maybe there was a big battle there with the New Republic? Maybe those royal guards and that Imperial dignitary did a holdout to the last man and there was a fight. Or maybe somebody stole all of his stuff from there, that disciple of the dark side group we saw in the Aftermath books, or maybe eventually Kylo Ren in the First Order. Just interested to hear what you guys' thoughts were.
Great question.
What is it about our listeners and fantastic voices?
I know, he's got a cool voice. Isn't he?
They're every listener who's come in with a voicemail, and I'm going to take a wild stab and say that every listener who hasn't put a voicemail in yet as well has just absolutely fantastic voices that you could listen to all day.
Yeah.
And, it's, I don't know what it is. I'm a little bit jealous, to be honest, because they're stuck with listening to me all day.
Yeah, we got these really clipped, weird accents to them.
Yeah, do me a lemon.
Yeah, no, Skoldron, Stephen, great question. So,
indeed.
I don't think Vader's castle was used lightly in Rogue One. There was a couple of elements in Rogue One that were hinted at, or at least, should I say, somebody said that there are elements introduced in Rogue One that will be used elsewhere. And we've already spoken about the Ring of Kafrene, and now I think that's going to make an appearance in Han Solo.
Yes.
I think Vader's castle may very well pop up in Episode 8.
Okay.
And I'm going to bury the lead and go straight to it. I think Kylo lives there. I think that's where he goes.
Like a retreat.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
I imagine there are sort of dark side. There's reference material. There's holocrons. There's everything you could possibly need to school himself.
Yeah.
And become this. What we've just been talking about. Become this uber dark side user.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's kind of where we're going in episode 8. But just to address some of Stephen's thought out questions there. Did his staff make a last stand at the castle? No, we only saw one dude, didn't we? I don't know.
We did.
Is Vader going to be like Batman and just have like one butler? Or
I don't imagine that they're that loyal.
No.
I don't think they're that loyal at all.
No, I think they'd have run for cover.
Too right, yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's my feeling on it. I don't think it's that clear cut at all.
And there's some other stuff that's... Sorry.
That's all right. I was just going to carry on. I was just going to kind of finish that point. It's just, I don't think they're anywhere near loyal enough to have stuck around after he's gone.
No.
I think they probably found out, that he was gone and they were on the first shuttle out.
Yeah. There's also, in Empire's End, there's this whole thing about Palpatine and how he set up a failsafe so that if anything happened to him, Rax was charged with sort of bringing the Empire down and destroying everything.
Yeah.
And I think you could kind of scale that down to Vader's castle. If anything happened to Vader, something bad was going to happen to the people in there.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
It could be something as
you know what I mean. I don't think it's reasonable on their part.
It's way unreasonable. But you can imagine them sort of having halos under those hoods.
Yeah,
halos with explosives on. If they try and leave the grounds, they go boom boom.
Yeah, quite so. Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there was something at play like that. But I'm with you. I don't think that they would make a last stand. I don't think they're dedicated in any way, shape, or form.
Not at all.
They would flip like a pancake.
Yes, indeed.
So was it raided? Could it be dark side disciples? I mean, we're hearing now that the universe is basically full of sort of dark side followers, and the Knights of Ren are kind of just like one group of many, aren't they? And in Empire's End, there's this group of dark side disciples.
Yeah.
Would they have raided it?
Possibly.
If they're all fanboys, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense.
It would be kind of like the Falcon and the way that changed hands. You imagine every little gang of dark side groupies rocking up and taking charge, and then Kylo Ren walks in and
I'm having that.
Takes Granddad's place back.
Do something, yeah.
With extreme prejudice.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I like the idea that castle kind of touching vaguely back on what we were talking about, but also, extending it further. I think that castle's been abandoned for a long, long time. And I think a certain somebody probably found it by pure,
research.
Obsessive research. Yeah, I was about to say research. Obsessive research. So I think it's absolutely... Yeah, I think the possibility of him living there is absolutely possible. I would quite like to see that.
Going back to what we've just been saying about Kylo in the previous discussions, I can imagine sort of Snoke saying, "Yeah, come here, I've got something I want to show you," and taking it to Mustafar and saying, "This is yours. This is your birthright," and really paying into his ego and saying, like, "This is your grandfather's place. Learn what you can from it. Become what he almost was."
But if you get guacamole on the sofa, he will choke you from beyond the grave.
Yeah, no stains on the sofa from Hawaiian Punch Night. That is a deep cut. Someone's gonna get that reference.
No.
Yeah.
The listener base is wise.
Yeah. So I think he's there, and we're hearing Kylo is going to be more Vader-like.
Yeah.
Innate. With one of Vader's capes, an actual Vader cape, not a Vader style cape, but one of his capes.
Nice.
That stuff has to come from somewhere, and and I think it's all come from here, and that's why that castle was introduced in Rogue One, because we're going to see it again in Episode 8, and we're going to see Kylo in there with his new scarred up face, his new Vader style helmet, and his new Vader cloak. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happened to him. I
that.
think.
Yeah, I can go with that. I'll totally swing with that.
Unanimous.
You don't you call me anonymous?
you
How dare you?
You old anonymous.
How dare you, sir?
Just realised I haven't written down any time codes for these voicemails.
What?
I've just made things harder for myself.
Oh, yeah, that's not ideal.
Never mind.
I thought you were going to say cursing. I haven't done anything yet.
No. It's just
I don't intend to either.
I have to drop the voicemails into the actual show, and usually I make life very easy for myself. This evening, I decided to go the other way. Okay. Stephen, thank you for your voicemail, and as always, thank you and Roku Depot for your continued support and for extending that support to the rest of the Commonwealth.
Yes, I saw that today.
Skyhoppers in particular this week did very well out of that, so it's greatly appreciated. Okay, mate, do you want to take Dave's question?
I can absolutely do that. So, is he Dave Landonovan or Poe Donovan? I lose track.
Well, I think it's just Dave Knight of the Commonwealth, even
that
with
works.
my eccentric spelling of the word knight.
Yeah, the less traditional spelling, where the I comes before the N.
You can tell how early / late I write these notes.
All right, so Dave. Right, so this is from Dave Donovan, Knight of the King of the Commonwealth. If this has been discussed before, and I have a feeling it has been, just ignore it. But Dooku really does tell Obi-Wan the truth in Attack of the Clones, and he really does seem to want to bring about change and defeat Sidious. Had Obi-Wan agreed to join him, do you think the Council would have believed them and joined? It would have still ended in almost the same civil war, and probably Palpatine would have taken over the Republic as Emperor much quicker, no? Sent while drinking Jawa juice in a seedy bar on Tatooine. Oh, Dave, you do have your vices.
Jawa juice.
So it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because Dooku does really does tell Obi-Wan the truth.
He does.
Now, do you think that's what do you think it is? I'll rather than lead you into a thing. What do you think it is?
I think it's this is the template that I've used to base my understanding of the Sith.
Okay.
Upon. Dooku really does want to use the dark side to get himself into a position where he can do some good with it. Unfortunately, he's not strong enough to manage it, and it gets the better of him. I think he overestimates his capabilities, and he underestimates Palpatine.
Yeah.
So I think he's being truthful with Obi-Wan, and I think he honestly believes when he says, "Like Qui-Gon would have done this."
On. Sorry.
Is that a speeder bike?
Yep.
I think he would have.
Yeah. Particularly vehement one.
I think he believes when he says Qui-Gon would have joined me. I think he completely believes what he's saying. And it's the same thing that motivates Anakin when he has a similar conversation with Padme. I think they really do believe that let's use the dark side. We'll get where we need to go quicker. And then when we're done, when we've completed our objective, we'll just go back to not using the dark side. I think they really believe that.
Yeah. So you think that's how they genuinely think that's doable?
Yeah. I think they honestly believe the first hit is free.
Yeah.
And he underestimates just what happens when the dark side gets its claws into you.
Yeah. Interesting. I kind of took it a little bit differently. I took it as it's a sort of a test of how entrenched the Jedi are and how likely they are to be rumbled. So I'm talking about Sidious and Palpatine. Obviously, is the same. They're the same person, but I'm talking about them in the kind of the link between the two.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's a kind of a last test of, are we 100% sure that they're not going to rumble? That they're not going to rumble us. So it's a sort of a water testing moment.
Let's see if they can just chip Obi-Wan off of the Jedi.
Yeah, because if they can, then maybe there's something they haven't planned for or something like that, But I don't know, now I say that. It's a tough one. I feel like this is mentioned in the Revenge of the Sith audiobook.
Okay.
But I can't for the life of me. It's really early on, so obviously I say it's a while ago. But I really can't remember for the life of me what's said about it. But they talk about Dooku reaching out to Obi-Wan and how he, I feel like he says somebody can feel free to correct me. I feel like he says something like, I knew that Dooku knows he'd never betray the Order, but it's it's a necessary thing to sort of test his
right,
to test his kind of metal, as it were. But I don't know if that's. I might be talking.
I've got the episode 2 audio book.
Episode 2.
It's
perfect.
Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Audio book. It's around here somewhere, so I might try and break that out. Maybe give that a listen over the next week or so and see what it does. See what we get to.
Yeah.
But I think sort of a Machiavellian move like that, let's just see if we can tempt one of the Jedi away, see if their resolve is strong. And
yeah,
I think if that was the case, we might have seen more of it. And
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because they don't pursue it anyway, but we do see a similar theme of someone saying, let's just do this, let's just use the dark side as a shortcut. Like even Vader, when he reveals who he truly is to Luke in Empire Strikes Back, he uses the same gambit again.
Yeah.
Let's defeat the Emperor, and then we can rule a galaxy as father and son.
Yeah. I see what you're saying, yeah.
We get rid of the big bad. So we're seeing kind of this honest gambit from these guys that are using the dark side for good, or trying to use the dark side for good. We're seeing it numerous times. But we're not seeing, there are no other signs that there's a test. Let's test the Jedi.
Yeah.
We're not seeing any other signs of it. It doesn't mean that there isn't one, but we're not seeing another sign of it to show that there's that deep Machiavellian angle to Palpatine.
Yeah, I know. I feel like what we're seeing in the prequels is a Palpatine who's, he's thought of almost everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe, like I say, maybe it's an attempt to just kind of cover all their bases. Like, well, we've kind of foreseen that Obi-Wan won't betray the Order, but, should we just give him a nudge? Just kind of make sure. I don't know. I might be talking.
No, there's no such thing here. We like to get all of these things out, don't we? And look at every angle of these things. And I think with some of the visual storytelling, you could say the position Obi-Wan's in that scene, in bindings, being suspended in front of Dooku, puts him in a really weak situation. And usually when they're trying to seduce these players, they're up close and personal and on level ground, sort of showing their true colours. But I don't know. I really don't know. To me, I've always read it that. See, this is why I've always said that Dooku is kind of a character that's a little greyer than, and not in the way we've been talking about them recently, but he's a little more morally grey than the others. He's not as evil as even someone like Tarkin. He hasn't got a clearly evil agenda. He very much to me seems like he wants to use the dark side and the Sith as a means to an end, and that's what I think he's laying out his plans there to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think that. Well, maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I just don't think that he respects the situation he's in. I don't think he understands how deep he's in. I think he's a little overconfident.
There is a little bit. That's one thing I do remember clearly from the audiobook is they deal more with the sort of the feeling of betrayal he gets when he realizes what what it's all been building to when Anakin sort of lops his head off.
Yeah,
he sort of when that look when he turns around to Palpatine is sort of touched on in more depth in the audiobook. It's like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
And then it's like slash.
Now this goes back to my new Snoke theory as well.
Yeah.
The traditional Sith dynamic. Dooku, if he understood what the Sith was, he would have known that
he would have known that was coming.
He would have known that was coming, right? But if there were this other thing with having a dark side body in spare,
Dooku
was never going to be privy to that because it would betray the use that Palpatine had for him, because there was no way Palpatine was going to have a dark side user that's older than him as the body in the wood. You know, that's not his new vessel there, is it? It's just an old one.
No. Yeah, indeed.
Listen, they can recontextualize a lot of this stuff if they do the right things in these upcoming films.
Yeah,
be very interesting. But with regard to Dave's question in this scenario, I think he was being upfront in that scene in Attack of the Clones. Personally,
okay, fair enough.
Right, okay. Should we run to a quick loot crate break, and then when we come back, we've got a couple more questions, and then Connor's corner.
Cool. Okay, sounds good.
We'll be right back. Loot Crate. Are you on a quest for epic gear, housewares, and collectibles? Loot Crate offers an epic range of pop culture items for less than $20 per month. Whether you're shopping for the geek in your life or you are that geek, Loot Crate is the best surprise you know is coming. Every month there's a different theme and new and exclusive items you can only get with Loot Crate. Treat yourself every month or give the gift of geeking out to a friend or a loved one. That roar in the distance is a call. Will you answer it? This month we're going primal and unleashing the beast of some of pop culture's most ferocious franchises. This savagely sweet collection has items from Overwatch, Wolverine, Jurassic World, and Predator, and it includes, as always, our monthly t-shirt and pin. You have until the 19th at 9 PM Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, that's it, it's over. Make sure to head to lootcrate.com/TalkStarWars and enter the code TalkStarWars to save $3 off your new subscription today. Okay, we're back. Right, so we've just heard from Dave Donovan, Knight of the Commonwealth, and now I've got a question from Dave Donovan, Knight of the Commonwealth. We have been off for 2 weeks, so he's obviously had some time to put a couple of bits together for us.
We've left him to ruminate, and this is
this is
what not happens. Dangerous. This is entertaining as all hell, but
all right.
We knew what we were getting into.
This week's question, that last one came through on the last time we recorded.
Okay.
And then this has come through subsequently for tonight. So this is from Dave. So a 2-part question. I recently got the latest edition of the totally amazing complete Star Wars locations book. There are a number of questions and possibilities raised from little nuggets within this book, but I'll focus on 2. Firstly, it talks about Yoda on Dagobah and says, without distractions or any means of leaving Dagobah to confront the Emperor or Darth Vader on his own, Yoda has been able to devote his years in exile to pondering ancient Jedi texts, meditating on the deepest mysteries of the Force, and using his Jedi skills, to communicate with Obi-Wan and other exiles. So, This is in print in a canon book. So does this leave the door open for Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka? Remember, it also could frame there is another in a totally different way, meaning not Leia. Interested to hear what you make of other exiles, and he has no technological means to communicate with anyone else on Dagobah. Well, he landed in the ship, didn't he? So there might be some sort of technological means, but I don't think he would risk being detected by using them.
No.
Do we want to do this? Do we want to do break down the first part now, and then we'll do the second part?
Yeah, sure.
Afterwards.
Sure.
Okay. So what do you make of that then? It's a fascinating find. This.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
He sent through screen grabs of the pages as well.
Yes, I saw those. Yeah. It's interesting. But then the problem I've got with it is purely that it runs the risk of muddying the George Lucas waters, and I'm always wary of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So when Yoda says there is another, definitively in Jedi, Obi-Wan says the other that Yoda refers to is your twin sister. Yep. That's definitive.
From a certain point of view.
Well, yeah, this is true. But at the same time, when Luke says Yoda spoke of another, Ben goes, "Oh, there's loads of them." That doesn't happen.
No, that's right.
So, it does feel like it muddies the George Lucas waters. Now, I mean, I know that the story group has been very good at not doing that thus far. So I'm kind of willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but you have to be sort of careful with these things, I think.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think if they were cavalier with it, then there is a real risk of messing up what is already established and what is already.
If there's like
cherished.
if there's like a fleet of Jedi by the end, I'll just be like, "Oh, sod off."
No, I don't mind them messing up what they're coming out with next.
Yeah,
but they really can't take down the original trilogy with them.
That's kind of my feeling on it. Yes, I don't want them to go too far in the realm of, because I mean, you know, George has got his detractors, but at the same time, he gave us everything.
Yeah,
you know, without him, there is no. You know, it may have turned up in a different format somewhere, but I mean, it's got to be said, it's not
G-level canon. You can't afford to treat it with anything but absolute respect. Having said that, George has muddied his own waters and retconned everything as he goes. If it's, you know, little things like Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was released between Star Wars and Empire, even to, you know, what we celebrate, or I personally celebrate, Sir Alec Guinness's line reading in A New Hope when he says, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father.
Yeah.
It looks like George had already said, play this both ways, because I need it to be read as you're telling a porky pie. But I believe at that point he was delivering that as an actual fact.
Yeah,
and so
I think it's entirely possible that George said,
"Be ambiguous."
You know, be ambiguous. I think that's entirely possible, and I think that would be very smart.
He gave Sir Alec motivation in that scene, because that's a very delicate performance, very deliberate performance.
It's powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
And now it's with the retcon that came in the next movie, it gives us room to say, well, what was going on? If Vader was a different person, and Sir Alec Guinness is delivering that line, appreciating that Vader's a different person and Anakin Skywalker died, and there are lines in scenes that imply that was the case.
Yes,
deleted scenes that imply that was in fact the case, that Anakin was supposed to be a different character.
Yeah.
Then what is the look on Sir Alec's face when old Ben's telling the story? The way we look at it now, he was telling a lie, and that is enough for me to accept Obi-Wan Kenobi is not necessarily a liar, but is an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, the other he spoke of is your sister, that motivates Luke. And I think
true.
Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. That lie was designed to motivate Luke.
Yeah.
So whichever way you look at it, Obi-Wan Kenobi is an unreliable narrator. And he's already told a lie to motivate Luke. Why can't this?
True.
Is another that it could be retconned to be a lie to motivate Luke.
Yeah.
If what he actually means is Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka are out there somewhere at the time.
That could be. That's another explanation that wouldn't be such a big leap as well. Is that they're not sure where the others are.
Yeah.
You know, they're kind of off in the wilderness, and they can't rely on them. That would be something, I guess. But that would be, let's say, it's a bit of a messy one, but it could be. It's doable.
It's kind of messy, but I think we can. I think there's room here to play around with this one line. So, Dave's written. So, does this leave the door open for Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka? And if Yoda says no, there is another, and let's accept for a moment that Obi-Wan was telling another little. He had a little bit of pants on fire. If he was in fact repurposing the truth to motivate Luke, Yoda says there is another.
Yeah.
That to me, he says one, because the story's been retconned by Obi-Wan to mean Leia.
Yep.
If it was one out of those three characters, who is it?
That's another good question.
To my mind, it's Ahsoka.
I see. I don't see it that way.
Because she's in a temple.
True.
She's in a temple where she could then learn to commune.
Yep.
And train and study. If in fact she survived the Twilight of the Apprentice.
If she's in the bloody Akatu temple, I'll lose it.
I like the idea that Ezra and Kanan are on their own path, and I
Yeah.
still kind of
Okay.
like the idea that Ezra turns and kills Kanan. But
Okay.
that's not saying that I want that to happen. I
Indeed,
do,
yeah,
I do kind of
of course.
find that mouth-watering. I think that's a very juicy storytelling. So
Sure. It's a little bit dark for Disney XD.
yeah, absolutely. Which is what we said before, and you just don't kill You just don't kill characters in children's television programs like that. But I like that potentially being expanded storytelling, maybe because it follows the path that they're on.
Yeah, it does. This is true.
And Ahsoka's a fan favorite.
Very much so.
My
And, you
favorite
know,
conduit, so that after all these years, Yoda was referring to Ahsoka, who he had quietly trained from afar.
if they like I say, if they start retconning, you know, things like that, I'll be a little bit. It will read a bit to me like sort of.
That's a razor's edge, isn't it? Because if they get it right,
so carefully.
fantastic.
Yep.
But there's so much potential to get that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be handled very, very well.
Yeah, it has to be delicate as anything.
All right. Okay. Should we get into part 2 of Dave's question? Okay. Second part of the question. In the same book, it features a super detailed map of Maz's castle. In it, we learn that the castle was an ancient site of a Jedi/Sith battle and became a Jedi temple, and that there's a crypt in the basement with buried Jedi in it. And it's right next door to the room. This is all in the book.
It's amazing.
This is all next door to the room where Rey finds the lightsaber.
Right, okay.
It does say Maz is a collector of things and a giver of things to people at the right time. Could it be that Luke has visited Maz's castle at some point and he actually found the saber earlier and left it with Maz, knowing someone one day would come and find it? Could this explain how she came to have it and then know that Rey is the one meant to receive it? Just some stuff to throw around. Excited to hear your thoughts, as always.
I'll just blow your mind, and I'm just going to drop the mic and walk away. Thanks for that.
We'd covered a little bit of this ground previously when we spoke about the Skywalker saber, and we wondered whether Luke had given the lightsaber to Maz and say, "You're going to need to," as if he's got clarity of vision about the coming events. You're going to need to pass this along, and he gave Lor San Tekka that little piece of map, and you're going to need that. And he put all these places out on the board, and then dropped the mic and disappeared to Mark 2. So we've dabbled in a bit of this before, but what about this revelation that her castle is a Jedi temple?
Crazy.
That definitely drops a pin in the map, doesn't it?
That's amazing.
Suggests that maybe, I think it's more than likely that Luke has been there.
Yeah, I think I'd be more surprised now if he wasn't. That's mind blowing.
So let's
it's in a book. It's a reference book. It's not even a.
No,
oh man,
it's there. It's all there. And the screen grabs he sent to me, I've seen. So it's all.
Yeah. I've seen the Yoda one. I didn't see the other one. I don't think. No, I'm not impugning his honor or anything. It's man, I'm just surprised.
So
they've gone for that. That sort of subtle a reveal.
Let's overthink it.
All right. On TSW.
Yeah, I know. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well.
So, Maz Kanata's castle is a site of a Jedi-Sith battle and a Jedi temple and contains remains of the Jedi. There is no way Luke hasn't been there.
Maz's castle sounded more and more like a Mary Sue. What's its downside? It's parking terrible.
Yes, parking's terrible, yeah. And it cannot balance a checkbook.
No.
If Luke's been there and spoken to Maz, whether or not he gave her the lightsaber, there's a good chance that he has given her knowledge about what's going to come, and that is behind the question she asks Han, who's the girl.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe I'm reading between all sorts of lines here.
Oh, I think that's fair enough.
Did Luke know that this was all going to play out the way it played out? Did he see a girl? Is she prophesized in some way? Did he go to Maz and say, look, one day a girl's going to turn up? Doc Brown. One day a wild-eyed scientist is going to turn up. Did he go there and say, look, keep this? Yeah. One day a girl's going to pass through here. That's like That's the thing we're looking for.
That's your cue, yeah.
That's the cue, and everything's going to go off.
Yeah.
We know she's got a part to play in episode 8. What it is exactly, I'm not sure, but
He didn't use the words episode 8, did he? listen, Matt, she's going to be important in episode 8.
Yeah.
What's episode 8? No idea. Anyway.
Get to me before episode 9. It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, mind-blowing, isn't it, this?
Unreal. Don't know what to... I'm struggling.
All from this little thing that he's pulled out a book just makes me...
He's
leads me
me
to think that Rey's prophesized in some way.
He's losing me for words. I didn't think that was a thing. I think that was a thing I could do.
Well, there you go. So...
Oh, quite.
Yes. I think with the amount of significance that her castle has here, just from these few details, there's no way Luke hasn't been there. He's absolutely been there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And they've definitely had some sort of dealing, haven't they?
Yeah.
No.
And I'm sure that's beyond the question.
Made a deal.
Who's the girl?
Yes.
She's expected. She's prophesied. He's seen this.
Yeah. And if he, maybe he said if it calls, if whoever this calls to, doesn't even have to be the girl,
Yeah.
It can be whoever this calls to has to sort of make their way to me. It's time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's...
And she knew a lot about that lightsaber as well, didn't she?
She did. Well, it's... Yeah.
And
that would be a good story. That would be a good story for another time.
Yeah.
Be a great story for any time.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
It just depends when on the timeline that happened.
Yes, indeed.
Did it happen in the 6 years between Leia's secret coming out and the fall of his school, and the events of Force Awakens, or did it happen way before and he was already seeing what was coming and he's putting things in place ahead of time? Contingencies.
Oh, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? If he knew that,
it was
she was going to be taken down and he couldn't do anything. That would be horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh man, terrible brother.
Right.
I lost your son. Sorry.
Yeah. My bad.
Yeah.
Maybe do that in a letter.
Yeah. That's a little bit cold though, isn't it?
What, the letter?
Yeah, just like, dear Leia, lost son.
Oopsie.
Yeah. Soz.
All right. Dave, thank you very much for those insights. Absolutely amazing. One day I will get you to write on the site, mate, because some of this stuff would make an excellent copy on Talk Star Wars. If only I had time to do it myself. Right. Shall we go to a break, and then when we come back, we will be getting into Connor's Corner?
Sure.
Let's do that now then. We'll be right back.
If you'd like to support what we do here at Talk Star Wars, you can do so by becoming a TSW sponsor. For as little as £1 per month given securely via PayPal, you can help us keep the lights on here at TSW. When you become a TSW sponsor, we will elevate you to VIP status. As a TSW VIP, you'll get access to an exclusive stream that provides you with fun downloads like HD wallpapers for your desktop, tablet and mobile device, ringtones and text alerts courtesy of our very own audio Jedi at Rob Wade Vision. You'll also receive a monthly newsletter with news about what's going on here at Talk Star Wars, and you'll get a priority release of the new Star Wars audio commentary series called TSW Feature Comms. All this for as little as £1 per month. Head to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become a TSW sponsor today, and the Force will be with you always.
And we're back. So as you've just heard, you can go to talkstarwars.co.uk/support and become part of our VIP program, which gives you exclusive content or at the very least priority release. Just like Connor. And as is customary, after we hear from the VIP program details, it's time for Connor's Corner featuring Leo. So Connor writes thusly, trademark. Hello, gents, and welcome back after your week. I hope you're all well, and thanks for the Feature Comms episode. Any excuse to fire up the OT is good enough for me, so thank you for that little treat. So in the last week, Leo and I went to see the Logan movie, and I must say we thoroughly enjoyed it. Even though the Fox logo and fanfare at the start makes me realise how much I miss it at the start of the Star Wars films.
Yeah, good point.
Then we tick Logan off our list of films we're looking forward to this year. Next stop, Skull Island, then a visit to see John Wick 2. We've still got John Wick 2.
Yeah, well, when
Oh,
he
okay,
wrote
fair
this, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. This got us talking about the rest of the films on our list, which, let's face it, is just a countdown to The Last Jedi. So I have to admit, this email this week is Mark-centric. Sorry, guys. Wow. We do still love you all, but you're not all going to Celebration next month. Don't remind me.
Yeah, stick it in and break it off, why don't you?
Just the tip. So we'd like to know what you're expecting. Do you think you'll see any kind of teaser, trailer, or sneak peek from the new film? Similar to Celebration London, which had a few great surprises also. But let's be real here. This one's in the good old US of A and will be on a much bigger scale. You'll be like a kid in the candy store.
Indeed.
Can't wait to see all the posts and videos you do. We'll be with you in spirit, my
I
friend.
ain't doing nothing.
I don't believe you.
Double negatives.
Then there's the Commonwealth meetup, you lucky thing. Please give them all our regards and wish them good health from Leo and I. So in true Talk Star Wars fashion, let's have one thing you'd all like to see come out of Celebration, whether it's far out or possible. There's no way I could leave the whole crew out of this, so let's hear where this goes. I'm sure this will make for good listening as always. Until next time, may the Force be with you all. I'm guessing he wants me to do this in a sort of announcer voice. I'll have a go. This email was sponsored by Hoth Chocolate, the tastiest chocolate in the galaxy. That'll work.
What a shame
Right,
that the
so
rest of the crew isn't here.
I know. Well, that's because they're all not as dedicated as me.
Indeed.
I didn't say that. I just thought it really loud. So, Mark, then.
Yes. Will there be a trailer for The Last Jedi at Celebration?
Has to.
I'm reasonably certain that there will be a sizzle reel. I think
Okay.
we've heard sort of rumours to that effect. And
Yeah.
everything that came out of the recent Disney shareholders meeting seems to suggest that we'll be seeing something along those lines.
Yep.
Which is in keeping with last year's Celebration, because that's the first thing we saw at the Rogue One panel was a sizzle reel, behind the scenes reel, which was fantastic and in a lot of ways better than a trailer, because you're not really getting any narrative spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. You're just kind of dealing with the whole.
Some visuals.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we'll see that.
Yep.
But I think that, here we are this far in now to the run-up to The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen anything. I think it would be foolish to suggest that there wouldn't be a Last Jedi trailer at Celebration this year.
Yeah. I think so.
But I think it won't be a Celebration exclusive. I think everyone will see it at the same time. Because that will really upset a lot of fans if only the select few that got to go, I don't know, I can't remember how many it is, it's 60,000 that are going to be able to go. If it's only those people that get to see it and it's only the percentage of those that get to go into the panel, if only those people saw the trailer, that's not fair.
No, it's not at all. No, indeed.
So I suspect that the people that get into the panel will see the sizzle reel, which you'll be able to see on YouTube later, but then everyone will get the trailer at the same time.
Yeah.
And we'll just have the atmosphere of being in there. If I'm lucky enough to get into the panel, we'll have the atmosphere of being there, but everyone will see it at the same time.
Yeah. It might be, I mean, didn't they do that with Rogue One, where they did the sizzle reel at Celebration on the live stream and then cut off at that point in the live stream, see the teaser in the room, and then it came out on YouTube like 5 minutes later.
They played, I don't think they've ever released the trailer that we saw.
Oh no, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I don't think they ever released it. I've got audio of it.
Yes.
But it's mainly drowned out by me crying all over it. That'll happen.
Yeah, well, quite.
But yeah, I think there's, I'm looking at the countdown now on the website. It's 273 days until the film's released and we haven't had anything yet.
Wow.
So there will absolutely be a trailer that's revealed there, maybe a teaser, but there'll absolutely be something for everyone.
I would have thought there'd be something, yeah. I would be very surprised if there wasn't a first teaser, because we're about the right sort of distance away from the final movie for that to happen.
But you know what? I also wouldn't put it past them to drop it tomorrow on YouTube.
Okay.
Because they don't seem to stand on ceremony, do they? I don't think it's likely. I don't think it's likely.
Whatever.
This whole thing like, the next film's called Last Jedi. Hope you're enjoying your Monday. It's kind of that, they're that flippant, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely going down the route of like, boom, whatever, do something.
Yeah. It keeps us off guard.
With Disney, what?
Yeah. We can do. Bring it.
Yeah, indeed.
So what do you think we will see come out of Celebration, mate?
I think you're right. I think there's got to be a teaser. I think that's it would be foolish not to do that. What will be interesting is, like you say, will it take the form more of a sizzle reel, or will it be a narrative trailer with a narrative teaser? Because a narrative teaser, when you compare the Force Awakens teaser, the first one, to the actual film, it told you very little.
Yeah.
In fact, it didn't even tell you, who Kylo Ren was. It just showed you a sort of cloaked figure.
This podcast did, though, if you were listening.
I
called it.
I would have been back and listened, but
yeah,
I don't.
Not
I
at the
can't
time.
recall that off the top of my head.
No, because it was a Movie Geeks Film News podcast that went out on. But yeah, when we broke down that first trailer and that guy, Kylo, staggered through the woods in the scene that didn't make the final cut, when he was hooded.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw him, when we were breaking that trailer down, I said, I think that's Han and Leia's son.
Okay.
It just fits sometimes, doesn't it? That just fit narratively to me, that's who that guy would be.
Yeah.
And I think that's episode 1 of the Talk Star Wars podcast, because I re-released everything.
Yes.
That was Star Wars shaped. I re-released it as the earlier episodes of this thing. I've lost my train of thought because I was looking at Twitter. Idiot. I do. Yeah, I think what you were saying, it could just be it could just be a non-narrative teaser, so there aren't a lot of spoilers. But I think what we will get, because the guys in the room there at the panel that day, we will see this. Yeah. We will see the sizzle reel, but the rest of the world will see it on the YouTube feed. But it performs a certain function when you're in the hall, because it raises the temperature. It's a warm up. It raises the temperature in the room, gets everybody going. Everyone becomes more and more excited. Then the host will come out on the stage and everyone's cheering and screaming, and that's the function these things fulfill.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
then later on it will be, well, we couldn't come this far without bringing something. And they'll play us the trailer, and and then I'll be crying, and someone will have to remove me from the auditorium because everyone's getting embarrassed. Is that one of those things?
Yeah, exactly. Or because you'll have put somebody's eye out if you get my drift.
Well, after Dark Side. What else could come out? So it's not just the last. We'll go off book here a little bit as well. Because obviously we're missing the other two guys, but. We've also got the 40th anniversary panel, and we're being told to expect something special.
Yeah.
What do you think that's going to be?
I really don't. It's. Am I right in thinking that Fox still has distribution for episode 4, right?
Yeah, theatrical.
So it can't, unless they've agreed something with Fox, it's not going to be a re-release of episode 4.
No, but they could play it at the event.
They could.
They played it last year.
Yeah, there's that. See, the trouble is, anything they announce has to come out this year. Otherwise, it doesn't fit, right?
Yeah, because it's the 40th.
Yeah, because obviously, if it goes past the 40th anniversary, it's no longer connected to it.
But it could. All right, there are two ways of looking at it. It could be that it's a physical thing that we're going to get now to celebrate the 40th, or the announcement of something else is a gift to celebrate the 40th.
Yeah. How much of a wee will you do if the announcement is that everybody who's in the hall that day gets a ticket for Star Wars Land when it opens?
I've just done a little bit of a wee now when you mentioned it.
Because conventions and keynotes and stuff, they do that sort of weird thing sometimes. I remember they did it with Xbox once. They said the Xbox 360 Slim comes out, and it's they said it's going to start moving to stores, and everybody's expecting them to say for Christmas, and he goes today, and then everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
And it will go on sale this Friday. And you'll be able to get one on Friday unless you were in the audience in this moment, in which case you get one for free. I'll treat. Wow. And the whole audience is just losing their minds. But there's form for that stuff. So they can announce these things and sort of build excitement. And I mean, like I say, that'll most certainly do the excitement job.
It would. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it would be something that they do, because it does put people in a situation. It's like sort of saying to someone, and you've just won an LDR8 and all the overhead that comes with it. Giving someone a ticket to Disney means you got to get yourself there. We'll just let you in the gate for free, where you get to buy all of our wares and our food and drink. I suspect that, well, by now, because I've got a video going out Saturday, so by now, with this hitting on Monday, you'll be able to see what my thoughts are about what's coming.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk about the 40th anniversary being the original versions of the Star Wars trilogy on Blu-ray or 4K, which I don't think we really want, because those films are ugly as sin, the original versions.
Yeah.
If you want those original versions in 4K, then there's clearly something wrong with you. What you're actually asking for, I think, is another remaster. So I did this video and I let my mind run away with me, and I kind of suggested, I don't think this is going to happen, but one possibility is that they might bring out George.
Okay.
That might be a fitting appearance for the 40th.
Yeah.
And announce that he's been invited to collaborate on an update of the special edition. So my video is basically, and bearing in mind those interested would have seen it by now, it's a list of 3 things that I would like to see taken out of the special editions or amended in the special editions if a definitive edition was to come. But that's one possibility, that George could be brought out and he could be invited to contribute to a definitive edition of Star Wars A New Hope.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also equally as likely, I think, that they will announce upcoming projects to celebrate the 40th. You know, this is the 40th anniversary, and what better time than to say episode 10, 11, 12 coming in these years. Yeah. And in between an Obi-Wan movie and a Yoda movie or whatever. Or
and you get a car, and you get a car.
And you get a car. And someone revive that English guy. There's something wrong with him. He's convulsing.
Oh, that's not a convulsion. Stand back. Off the dark side.
Can someone take that lightsaber? Oh, it's not a lightsaber. Okay. So yeah, there are some possibilities.
Yeah.
But I think I've got a feeling that George will be there for that panel. That might be nice. And even though I would love a definitive edition of A New Hope, I think it's pretty slim that we'll get anything along those lines. And I think,
like you say, I think that's, people want what they want, but they don't.
No, once they watch it, they'll be thinking, oh dear. I didn't realise. Like, Darth Vader's lightsaber isn't even red in some scenes.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that Greedo's mask doesn't fit either? It doesn't strap up properly at the back. Yeah.
Excellent. I've never noticed that. That's amazing.
I'll point it out at some point.
Nice.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Connor. Kind sir.
Yes, indeed.
Knight of Commonwealth.
Knights of Commonwealth.
Right. Are we done with that?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Twitter poll time then.
Already?
Yeah. So the last poll we ran was, who's the most important character in new Star Wars canon?
Right.
Is it Rey, Luke, Kylo, or Snoke? Snoke only got 7%.
Oh, no love for the big man.
No love. Kylo only got 15%. Now,
no love for the other man.
Based on what we were talking about earlier in the show, I suspect that might be completely wrong. If this is a rescue mission for Kylo Ren. Rey got 36%. Luke got 40%. So people think that Luke is the most important character in Star Wars New Canon. We've got 167 votes from 2,442 people reached. Quite a nice performing little question, that one. So let's throw out the next one. And I've already got it in drafts, so this shouldn't take a second. Right, this is the next question. What will be announced at Star Wars Celebration's 40th anniversary panel? Do you see what I did there, Rob?
Yes.
Option 1.
Very impressive.
A new Star Wars story. Option
Okay.
2. Another Skywalker trilogy. Option 3. George to recut Star Wars. Or option 4. The original versions on Blu-ray. I'm going to tweak this out now for 6 days and 22 hours. Boom. And I'm going to pin it to our profile.
All right. I'm going to cast my vote right now using the host privilege of knowing
Pinned.
what's coming next. All right.
That's up there now. Have fun with that. If you have an alternate answer, then feel free to quote the tweet and just put your alternate answer in there.
Here we go.
See
Yeah.
what some other people come up with.
No, I don't see that one. Yeah. All right. Put mine in.
Cool. Right. I'm just going to take a screen grab of that.
Okay.
Put in the show notes this week. And it's just updated as I was taking the screen grab. Boom. Right.
Okay.
Should we jump into a few bits of Star Wars news then?
Let's do.
There's not a great deal.
That's all right.
So I've tried to.
There aren't many
trying
of
to
us.
keep this sort of slim. These shows nice and slim. So, Star Wars Celebration news. Star Wars Celebration will skip 2018 and return in 2019. What could that mean for the Han Solo promotion and the Episode 9 release date? Did you hear this? Did you get this news?
I did, yeah. It's interesting. Does seem a little bit less than something to worry about, if that
Okay.
makes sense. It seems like a perfectly reasonable thing. You know, I think Tumbling Saber talked about it on their last show, and they were saying that, you know, they've sort of had over 50% of the years since 99 was when they first started doing it. And since then they've had over 50%, you know, every other year at least they've had a celebration. So I think it's perfectly in keeping with their kind of calendar. I think the reason we kind of see it as a big deal is because it's the first time in a little while there's been a gap.
Yeah.
I don't see it as, you know,
The gap seems
anything
obvious
to
as
worry
well.
about.
Because if you had a celebration after Han Solo,
yeah,
what are you gearing up to promote?
well, you plug in. Yeah, well, quite. Yeah, this is the other thing is, you know,
And it
what
also
do you end
says
up
to me
plugging?
that Han Solo is definitely going to keep its May release date. Otherwise, they might want to do a summer celebration, even if it's a European celebration,
to plug it for the later part of the year.
to give Han Solo plenty of coverage. Because they'll have loads. They'll be in a situation that they're in now with The Last Jedi, where they've got tons of footage, probably a locked print, and plenty of actors they can bring out on stage to wax lyrical about it. So
Yeah,
without Han Solo there, if Han Solo's already been in theatres for a month, by the time they do a celebration, then
yeah,
what's the point? And you're not going to want to stick another celebration out early part of the year. I suppose they could do, because this
could,
one's coming inside of a year
Mm.
after Celebration Europe. But I think there's also room to consider what they do with D23, because
Yeah.
they might use D23 to promote the Han Solo movie, and then 2019's celebration will be promoting Episode 9.
yeah. That makes sense. And I say, I don't see it as a big deal. I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I don't see it as an issue, but I'm seeing it as confirmation that Han Solo will be out in May and not move as some people had been speculating.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable hypothesis.
It also gives people a chance to top up the coffers, doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
if you do
and also
this year
to
after year-
see Han Solo. You know,
yeah,
that's the other thing to keep in mind is people want time to go and see the movie, possibly multiple times.
you don't want another event stealing its thunder.
Or quite, you know. That's the thing to keep in mind is it's easy to kind of to get burned out on this stuff as well. You know, as much as we love Star Wars, we have to. The thing to keep in mind is for the people who are listening who are like, "Oh, it's not possible to get burned out on Star Wars." It is if you're not as into it as other people, which is a thing that people experience.
So I hear.
So yeah, so we hear. So which is fair enough, but it does. Yeah, it happens, and the more people, I think, I'm trying to remember when I talked about it, but I talked about it a while back, and I mentioned that it would, you know, the mark of a good movie is that people see it more than once, even if they're not hardcore fans, or something to that effect. And that's kind of what I still subscribe to, is, you know, that it's easy, you know, the less likely non-hardcore fan is to see a movie a second time, the less it's likely to clean up at the box office. And I think that if they're not careful with, you know, if they were to, like you say, do a celebration a month into Han Solo, they run the risk of turning people off from doing the, you know, this would be the hardcore fans, obviously, we're talking about. They'd be doing their sort of second, maybe third viewings or fourth or whatever, depending on how long it's been in theaters, but I'd say about a month at this point. If for any reason the casual fans aren't seeing it multiple times, that's the bread and butter. That hardcore crowd.
Yeah.
And if they're not going because they're busy at Celebration, sure, you get their money from Celebration tickets, but actually also you spend a ton of money on organising Celebration, because I can't imagine it's cheap.
No.
So
it's much better used as part of the promotional cycle as well.
Yeah, indeed.
And not sort of saying to somebody, oh, well, you know that film that's already been out for a couple of weeks? Forget that. Look at what we've got coming up. It's just gonna undermine the film that's in theaters, and I don't think they really want to do that.
Quite so. It sort of devalues a little bit the kind of sense that the film is worth seeing and worth your time. Because it's like, oh, you know, don't worry about that. We've got the real film coming up. But yeah, now I'm not going to go see that other one again, because you just kind of told me that it's not worth, you know, it's not worth doing again. That's just how I interpret it. I may be talking rubbish again.
No, not at all.
That's how I see it. Is people can easily get burned out, especially when you tell them that what you're seeing is not the prime, sort of the prime cut.
It's like when they release a new iPhone, you know they've got the design of the next one all locked down, and they're coming out saying this is, if they release the iPhone 8 and then immediately start saying, well, next year this is coming, what's going to happen to the sales of 8? You don't want to undermine the product that's fresh in everybody's mind by saying this is what's coming next. That's yesterday's news.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Star Wars Darth Vader. So this has been my favourite Star Wars comic so far, and there's a new volume, for want of a better phrase, of Darth Vader coming in, I think it's May. So there's a new comic book series, and it picks up seconds after the end of Revenge of the Sith. So we're right back when he's first in the suit. One of the things that this will explore is the construction of the red-bladed lightsaber. And nice. it will really start to sort of break down his relationship with Sidious.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
So this is going to be an interesting book.
Yes, very much so.
Interesting series of stories, at least, and maybe we'll be, I don't know, maybe we'll even be seeing some flashbacks. See a bit more of Anakin.
Maybe.
But I very much like this idea. They really know what's hit. They know what's landed with fans, don't they?
Indeed.
Is this something you'll read?
If I get to it, I'm quite bad for comic books at the moment. I tend to, for some reason, when I have the time to read Star Wars comics, I tend to go back to Legends.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I just really like, I just really like Legends.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The L word.
Yeah. The L word, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm hoping that Robcast and I, that's not fair. I'm hoping that I can pull my finger out and Robcast and I can start this extra podcast about the Star Wars comics.
Yes.
So
That'd
we
be
can
cool.
get a couple of episodes under our belt so that we know what we're doing with the structure of the show by the time this starts. And then this can be something that we follow, if not exclusively episode by episode, we can at least do the greatest hits when we look at other things. But I'll be very keen to sort of follow this along. And I think that would be good timing as well to pick up the rest of the audience as we do this. I'm very excited about this. I think I'm pretty keen to get stuck into this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does sound cool. So I'm annoyed that I can't commit to it, as it were. But it's just one of those things I struggle with. The phrase I've always kind of fallen back on now when people recommend me stuff is it's on my list, but it's a big list.
Yeah.
That's pretty much kind
Some
of
that
a
stuff
good
goes
breakdown
on
of
the
it,
bottom.
really. Yeah, exactly. Not everything can be top billing, sadly.
Yeah. What a shame.
It's one of those things. I'm sure if I was being paid to do this stuff, I would find something else I'd find something to be annoyed about with it.
One day, mate.
Yeah, well, dream big.
Okay, yeah. Last Jedi news. So, as always, potential spoilers are here. Beware ye who enter. So, Disney shareholders got a sneak peek at some Last Jedi footage. We've heard a few tidbits from people who were there, and some of the other websites and podcasts have picked up on the same. So, I've heard this spoken about in plenty of places.
Yes.
So, did you see the breakdown, the article on Talk Star Wars? Had a few tweets in there.
I saw? Well, no, actually, I didn't, but I did hear the Tumbling Saber guys talk about it. So I know I will have a look at because it's going to be easier to refer to this.
Yeah, but there's a guy named
and you get a couple of hits as well, so that's always nice.
Yeah, that's good. There's a guy named Dan Miller, and he's a writer from the LA Times.
Okay.
And he was present at the shareholders meeting, and he tweeted a few tweets out about exactly what they had seen. Mm-hmm. So this is one of his tweets. So we just saw more Star Wars The Last Jedi footage. In it, Luke asks Rey, "Who are you?" Then we see her deftly handle a lightsaber. Now I don't know if that means that he says, "Who are you?" before he's finished the sentence. She's got lightsabers out, sort of doing all sorts of weird stuff.
Dun, dun.
Or whether it's a montage.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, and then he's like, well, that's very clever, but who are you?
That's lovely and all, but that's not what I asked.
Can I see your pass?
Yeah. You don't need to see my identification.
Yeah, because Arctu is actually a national park and he works there, and that's his uniform, not Jedi robe.
Yeah. I'm looking for that pesky Yogi Bear.
Yeah. Stealing picnic lightsabers. So Dan also went on to tweet out, also making an appearance in the Last Jedi footage was Chewbacca, General Leia, and Finn. One last thing on the Last Jedi footage, we saw all sorts of settings, mountains, oceans, forests, deserts, look suitably epic and exotic. And the last tweet you put out was a tidbit on the Last Jedi footage. In a clip, a character yelled, "It's now or never." Sorry, so I couldn't say who screamed it, but I'm pretty sure I've heard that identified as Poe Dameron.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. There's plenty of stuff described in there. A wounded X-Wing flying through a much larger ship, looking like a injured bird.
Okay.
I think that's probably Poe.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing. I like that
indeed.
Bob Iger sort of reported that it is a wonderful entry or a wonderful chapter of the Skywalker saga.
Yeah.
And I know obviously they're not going to say, it's kind of middling. We did our best. They're always going to build their part up, aren't they?
Meh.
That's all I can say.
Meh.
Never been a big fan. Much prefer Avatar.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't, right?
Yeah. No, this sounds pretty cool. I hope that they show this footage at Celebration. I'd be really interested to see exactly what order this stuff plays out in. And if the footage of Rey handling a lightsaber is definitely separate from the "Who are you" line.
Yeah. Interesting. See, I heard this, and I don't know if anybody's done this, but it seems to me like that doesn't necessarily have to happen at the beginning of the film.
No.
You know, we just hear him do it, but I doesn't necessarily think that, and it depends heavily on the way it's phrased, the tone of voice.
Yeah.
Same way as Maz Kanata's kind of.
Yeah.
Not so much who are you as in, you know, which person are you, but more who do you know, what's in your character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's in your character. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you can read a lot into that, can't you?
Yeah. This is it. But it's open to a lot of interpretation. Plus, you know, Dave Donovan put up a poll. It's classic misdirection.
Yes.
Star Wars
I
style.
saw that. I voted in that today.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's the kind of thing they have form for. Let's say that.
They played a game. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. You know. But yes, I think it's very much open to interpretation many different ways. That particular line.
Yeah, it could be like who exactly are you in your own mind? You know, who do you identify with? Which way are you going to choose to go here? Are you going to dedicate yourself to this training? Yeah, I like it. It could mean a number of things, but the danger is now that you fall down a rabbit hole trying to frame it in a way that best suits your narrative.
Yes, it's always a bit tricky with that, not to sort of go too far down the rabbit hole.
Okay, there's not much else in the way of Last Jedi news at the moment. There's a couple of rumours about Captain Phasma's weapons and some other sort of the state of the galaxy at the time, but we won't get into that here. But Han Solo, a Star Wars story news.
Yes.
Michael K. Williams, wonderful actor, has joined the cast of the Han Solo movie. It was rumoured and confirmed whilst we were off. Are you familiar with this fine gentleman's work?
I'm not, I have to say. But from the buzz that's been generated around his appointment, I'm kind of pretty convinced that he's pretty good. Just because I'm seeing a lot of positivity around his inclusion.
Yeah, he's extraordinary.
If he's good, then, you know, great. That's always good. You know, that's the better caliber of actors exist in this thing. The more kind of the more credence it has when it comes to, you know, the kind of the final thing.
When I put the announcement out on the site, it was when I first put the rumor out on the site, I had to give the guy a free pass for Ghostbusters 2016 because he was in that. But I think there were a lot of talented people that got tarnished with that film.
Oh, I mean, Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
Hang on. So who is he in that?
Yeah, he's one of the I don't know if they're FBI or something. One of the agents.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
But he's best known probably for The Wire.
Yes, I've heard The Wire is his sort of standout role.
I've never gotten around to watching The Wire. I will at some point. It's on my list.
Oh, hang on. I do know him. Where do I know him from?
Have you ever seen Boardwalk Empire? This is where I'm most familiar with him from. He is wonderful in that show. So he barely does anything, but he does so much.
Yeah, and it's so good that it doesn't matter.
So powerful.
Oh, I figured out where I know him from.
What's that?
He's in the RoboCop reboot. I've seen that.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah,
but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who he plays in the RoboCop reboot. I can see the character name, but that doesn't mean much to me. Hang on, is he one of the cops or something?
I think so. I think that falls into the category of giving him a free pass again.
Well, you know, yeah. I would say he's certainly by no means the weakest part of that film.
No.
Because it has to have a script, right? Let's have a look. See if it's got any pictures of him from... Oh, here we go. Yeah, I know him. He's his partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a partner. He's good in that. He's pretty good. It's like I say, he's nothing that's bad about his role in that one is his fault by any means. It's just pants.
Yeah.
By comparison to the original, for absolutely sure.
This cast for Han Solo is shaping up to be pretty bloody good, right?
Really is.
There's some heavyweights in there.
Yeah, indeed.
Tandy Newton, Woody Harrelson, and Michael K. Williams.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It doesn't matter what the rest of the cast bring to the mix when you've got people like that. That's reassuring. We don't know Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and we don't really know much about Alden Ehrenreich at this point in time. But consider who they're being put up against. The creators must have confidence in them that they've got the chops to stand up to these people on the same screen.
For sure, yeah. Absolutely.
Emilia Clarke and Don Glover I'm not so worried about. I think that they're both pretty competent actors.
Yeah, they're both perfectly, like you say, competency is a good word for it.
But they're just a couple of. They're not too far behind.
Yeah.
Michael K. Williams, Tandy Newton, and Woody Harrelson not too far behind them in terms of the amount of confidence I have in them.
Yeah.
But I think this is shaping up to be really good. They're also filming in Fujiventura. So they're shooting.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of talk at the moment that might be standing in for Corellia.
Interesting.
Because it's got the Canary Islands, which is where I was when we were off, very much like this kind of lunar landscape.
Okay.
Really idiosyncratic sort of landscape.
I'm still kind of thinking that Dubrovnik might be part of that.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, it's almost Icelandic in certain places.
I still think we're looking at episode 8. We're going to get a really close, really brief glimpse into something we're going to see in more depth in the Han Solo movie. Much like you said about how what's it called?
Yeah, the Ring of Kafrene.
Ring of Kafrene. Yeah, the Ring of Kafrene might turn up in the Han Solo movie.
We're off our
kind of flow tonight, but I think it's just because we're not being constantly bombarded with questions about what we're supposed to be doing.
Buffoonery. Yeah. Where are we? What is this? A Transformers podcast?
But I think much in the same way as the Ring of Kafrene might sort of play a role in the Han Solo movie, I think that Corellia might as well. And I think we're being introduced to these concepts in small doses so that when we get to the Han Solo movie, we'll be able to see them a bit more depth. And we'll go, oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. That's my theory anyway, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And if there are multiple Han Solo movies, we might see these places. They might become as familiar to us as Tatooine.
Yeah, for sure. By the end, they might be, something we've been to many, many times.
Because we need a new one.
Sure.
When we're starting to move away from those legacy planets, legends.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That's it. That's the last news story we've got on the docket.
Well,
and unfortunately, Paul hasn't been able to join us.
No.
We're going to see if we can get him on for a little bit of After Dark siding because he's left us a cryptic message in the chat. Right.
Yes.
So let's wrap this one up then. So thank you for listening to Talk Star Wars episode 61. Don't forget to leave us that 5-star review in iTunes and take advantage of the Ron Burgundy guarantee. Whatever you write in that review, I will read as long as it's clean. So if you want to promote your blog or your podcast or YouTube channel, whatever your projects are, that'll be the place to do it. Yep. You can email us your questions and comments to talkstarwars@info@gmail.com. That's talkstarwarsinfo@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us on one of our many social channels, such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more. With that said, mate, where can people find you between shows?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RobWadeVision, and I also run an associated blog channel, Emotionally 14, which has Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and podcasts on iTunes.
Superb, and don't forget to look out for TSW Toy Box.
Indeed.
And you can find everything that Rob, Mark, and Jeremy are doing simply by going to talkstarwars.co.uk/toybox, and everything is aggregated there on one useful page. You can find everything I do at talkstarwars.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter at talkstarwars. You can find Stephen at Stephen_Ware on Twitter, and Wild About Nature on YouTube. Paul is at Movie_News on Twitter, and you can find more of his work at moviescorenews.com. And there are links to everyone else in the show notes. There will be a Commonwealth spot after this because I'm going to repair it. We will see you guys next week.
May the Force be with you.
Talk Star Wars is a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Find us at StarWarsCommonwealth.com alongside
The Tumbling Saber Podcast,
the Generation X-Wing Podcast,
the TSW Roundtable,
the Skyhoppers Podcast,
and the Nerd Room Podcast.
Head to StarWarsCommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world.
It's
a wrap!
It's a wrap.